Welcome, everybody, to the third installment, the third episode of the Ministry of Psychic Weather. I have with me the lovely Olivia, the radiant Fiona, and the magnificent Thomas Sheridan. And I suppose we could get right into it after that. One of the topics that I think that was high on the list of the things that we wanted to discuss were spirits, particularly house spirits and land spirits or landvættir. Um, Anybody wants to take it away, or anybody has something that they want to say before we get into the conversation?
The Landvitier. Why don't we start with what they actually are?
Mhm.
So they're nature spirits. They belong to the land, and historically, in pagan times, they were venerated, but they were also used in magical warfare. Uh, there is a saga, Egil's saga, and they actually used a knitting pole that had a curse inscribed on it. And they were trying to drive away Eric Bloodaxe and his queen. So the curse was to drive the Landvættir mad and to drive the king and queen out of Norway. So we've kind of forgotten about all of that. And I just think, shouldn't we be doing something like that?
Yeah.
Well, I definitely think it is possible to do both, because once they become a pest to you, and they definitely can become a pest. And is there a difference between a fairy per se and a land spirit? Yes, kind of, because a land spirit is more, I mean, kind of in the sense that they seem to have an element attached to them, as in one of the four elements, like fire, water, that sort of thing. Is a fairy like that? I don't know. I couldn't really say with certainty. But what I do know is that they can become absolute pests, regardless of whether it's somebody using a curse against you. And that can be done very easily. But it is also possible to have a sort of tentative peace. It is possible to live together.
I have a theory about it is that like the fairies are from the other world, the fairyland, and either we encroach on their realm or they encroach on ours, and that's how contact is made. But nature spirits and domestic spirits, they live in this they are supernatural creatures that live in this realm. They're here all the time. We
Mm.
just don't see them. When people are in the woods, uh, and they get a feeling of being watched. That's usually what that is. Some kind of nature, sort of like environmental spirit that lives in they are. So they are they're well, if they're the same as fairies in that they have a lot of the same attributes. But I think they're from what I've been looking into it, I think they're here all the time. Because if
Mm.
you look at like in Ireland, the fairies, the She, and the goblins, the equivalent would be the goblins and elves in the Nordic world, they don't live in this reality. You know, there's all kinds of ritual folk magic to contact them in their own world or to make offerings to them that would pass over. But these both these domestic spirits and these nature spirits definitely seem, I think, they seem to be here all the time.
Mm. Mhm.
So what should we do? Give them offerings and just leave them alone, mostly?
Well, I think like you just leave them alone. You know, that's my attitude. When you get that, sometimes people will go to the woods who are like maybe Abrahamic or atheists. They're going hunting or fishing or whatever, and they'll come to a place and he said, "I had this awful feeling to get the hell out of there." Well, I've had those feelings too. You get the hell out of there. It's as simple as that. Don't be rude. Don't impose. You know, you're in someone's home. You know, I will tell you a story though, and you probably have seen the video. Did you ever see the old Vaughn special I did on how to catch a demon, how to catch a spirit? I'm convinced, and that sound in that jar, I'm convinced is absolutely one of those nature spirits that was trapped in there. And because it was in a remote ruin, and well, not trapped in there, but that's what was picked up on the microphone, and it was like almost like a whizzing sound, like a whizzing, high pitched, almost electronic sound. And I felt very bad about that afterwards because I felt like, I catch an animal in a snare. Maybe it was just looking, doesn't mean I caught it. But yeah, that's what they are. I think that's also what I think a lot of these strange lights you see in the woods and stuff like that are, or on bogs and in houses. A strange light you might see in the corner or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think the best thing is to just leave well enough alone.
Yeah, I think that's what Bigfoot is.
Yeah. There's
I,
one in Scandinavia called a tomte, and it's like an ancestral domestic spirit, and it actually will get rid of spiders and mice, and it will chase bugs out of the house if you're respectful for it. And that's very common in all kinds of folklore as a kind of a domestic nature spirit that might live in the barn. And they're sometimes again accused compared to fairies, but they live in the barn all the time. And often they'll do things like they will do a horse's braiding, a bridle.
hmm.
You come in the next day and the horse's bridle is done and the spirit has done it. That's a big folklore belief in Newfoundland and that part of Canada.
Yeah, and the Eastern Europeans have their domovoi, the little house spirits, and they usually don't like to be seen. They don't like to be disturbed, but you better make sure that you're on good terms with them, meaning taking care of your house and not arguing and not being a slob and a lazy bastard about your own household. And I saw one of those when I was a child. When we lived in Romania, I saw one of those, but I had no idea. My parents surely didn't believe in any of that. My dad was Orthodox, so never any talk of that, and my mom is still traditionally Catholic, so no one ever talked about that, and I didn't know what the hell I was seeing, but I saw something and it was really kind. I felt a great kindness emanating from it. I wasn't scared at all, and I was a bit of a scaredy cat as a child, but there was nothing hostile about it whatsoever.
Aren't they like particularly benevolently predisposed towards children?
Right.
Yeah.
I read that much later that they are protectors of children. So I guess I was on his good side.
Yeah.
It was very cute though. It was hairy with huge feet. That's all I remember.
Aw.
It was adorable.
It was hairy with huge feet. So
Yes,
almost like a kind of a gnomish kind of thing.
something like that. Yeah.
The thing with the children is the fairies have a completely different relationship with children.
Mm.
See, in the Germanic world, they'll often torture them and hurt them. And in the Irish, the She, they've been known to steal children, boys particularly before they're 7, or girls going through menopause, and bring them. Apparently, this is the folklore. There's a point where you can take someone over, and make them like an agricultural slave in their world. They turn them into like farm hands, and they don't know because they're usually kidnapped in the cradle or stuff like that, like the changeling thing. And it's almost like a spiritual transfer. It's the same child, same face, but the mother knows that's not my child. Now, the recent theories is that that's to do with that was how they sort of like rationalized autism years ago, but it didn't. It wasn't that. It wasn't that. If you read the accounts of these things, these women were adamant that that wasn't my baby in there. Like a mother would know that. But you'd never hear a mother of an autistic child say, "That's not my baby." They would say,
Right.
"That's my child. It's just changed."
Yeah. How awful for those mothers.
Oh,
That,
it was a big thing in Ireland. I mean, like you see lots of photographs of people, particularly people that lived on the islands off the coast, up until you were talking about like the 60s. They would still dress little boys in petticoats. There's loads of photographs of them, and they look like little girls, but they're dressed like little boys until they're 7. or 8 to make sure the fairies don't not think they're little girls.
Mm-hmm. Well, I definitely have a personal anecdote about the house spirit. That the house that I lived before, it was very old. It was 500 years old. That's when it was first built, when the whole town was built. And it had a spirit that had a particular dislike to me slamming doors, which I can't do if I'm in a bad mood. I'm a bit rough with the chair or with the door. And I tend to be a bit rambunctious when I'm in a bad mood in general, not at anybody in particular. And whenever I was in such a mood, the bathroom door would start to move by itself and creak. That door did not creak at all if I just open it or close it myself. And I tested this. I opened it fast, I opened it slow. It did not make a sound. But all of a sudden, it would start to do this. And sometimes it would even close again in the exact same manner. Now, that's a rather benevolent way of letting me know that they're not fond of my of me being angry in the house, which, yeah, that's understandable. I'm a new person and I'm a foreigner in a new country, in a house that has a history that goes back farther than I can even recall my personal family tree. So yeah, I accepted that, and I definitely took that in mind, kept that in mind from then on, to be a bit less, to be a bit calmer in how I express certain emotions. And it definitely calmed down after that, although spirit activity in general was a thing in that village. I saw spirits looking like flesh and blood just walk around. One time I was sitting in the kitchen, I was home alone, the door was closed, and I glance over there and I see a man, a bald man, walking by the door. And he was nowhere to be found. There was nowhere he could have even gone. He would have walked right into the sofa. And you think that'd be scary, but it's actually not. It's just one of those things that make you go like, did I just see that? Yes, I definitely just saw that. And you even go to check and there's nothing there. And for some reason, it never made me afraid, because I never really had a reason to be afraid of it, I guess. Sure is interesting, though, to live in a place like that.
You wonder what makes a place like that, or maybe keeps it like that, you know?
I think in my case where I live, it has to do with trauma that made this place a little, let's say, weird, because I live in a typical post-World War II concrete block, just a run-of-the-mill, boring piece of crap. No, sorry, but it's true. It's just utterly boring. No personality whatsoever in that house. But the building that stood there before the war must have been splendid, because we have all those gorgeous Art Nouveau houses in the neighborhood, and they're just so beautiful. And I can only imagine how glorious it must have looked before the war. So I guess the trauma of being bombed into smithereens, or the home of that spirit, or those spirits being bombed into bits, is horrible. And I don't know if it's an angry spirit of a person or more than one. I can't put my finger on it, and I honestly don't want to. But it is something that is at the very least semi-sentient and picks up on negative energy. So whatever negative energy is going on in this house, or particularly my apartment, I better make sure it dissipates quickly, because this, whatever it is, picks up on it. And it's kind of scary when it escalates. It's like something whispering in your ear to make everything worse. It's a long story, so I don't want to bore anyone with it, but I feel it on a very visceral level, that there is something that is not per se malevolent, but has to be kept at bay, let's say. And I also noticed that the higher up you go, I don't live in an upper floor, so the higher up you go, the more, let's say, the creepier the atmosphere gets. There's something there that just creeps the living crap out of me. And I'm not somebody who is hysterical or something like that. I'm pretty calm, but this is like, oh my God, I don't even want to go there. I've never even been in the attic. I don't want to go there. I don't like basements either, but this attic, no, thank you. And before I lived here, I lived in a actually for real haunted old house, like old 17, 1800 something. Um, and there was an actual spirit of a deceased woman in the attic. And I know that because I felt that it was a female presence that was actually really pissed at something, certainly pissed at me for disturbing her. I only went there like a few times, but I felt that it wants me gone. And I even apologize out loud, saying, I'm sorry, I'll just be a few minutes. I'll be out of here. I don't mean to disturb you. I'm going. And my then roommate, who had a lot of spirit attachments, let's say, due to psychosis, she told me that a couch that was in the attic used to belong to a woman who committed suicide. And she, despite being a new agey, airy-fairy kind of person, she said, yeah, maybe there's something there because my boyfriend who lives there, yada, 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 he feels something, I feel something. I didn't take her seriously then, but when I was there myself, I was like, maybe she's right. There's something there, and it was not nice at all.
Trauma does create portals. I noticed in Northern Ireland that a lot of buildings that had been, bombs and stuff, there was a lot of spirit activity, like an intense stream of spirit activity. And I think the reason is that in the old days, they would have known to kind of cleanse the land after trauma, like wars or murders or even just deaths. But of course, we've lost that knowledge. And so there's like a portal that, a lot of things can just come through. That's what I've noticed anyway.
Haunted battlefields. Neil Oliver was talking about one in Ireland from the 1700s, or Grim. I think it's near Galway. And apparently it was a rout. They was just an absolute massacre. And they were basically just all cut down as they're running away in these fields. And he was saying that when he was an archaeology student, he was over at that battlefield. And he said the actual energy level was shocking. And it was because they never properly tended to the dead. There was no sort of like respectful burial or anything. They just basically were lying in the fields, and the crows having them for weeks afterwards. And that's even to this day, even people who go there to view the battlefield and don't know anything about the haunted stuff, they have all these ghostly experiences and all they see things and they hear things, and they get very frightened.
Yeah. What was that other battle? Was it Aughrim? Aughrim battle?
That's the one. That's the one.
That's the one.
Oh,
Yeah. I
yeah.
had my own experiences with that.
Oh, you've been there? Okay.
I've been there. Yeah. And that was horrific because they actually left all of the dead in the battlefield, and they refused to allow anyone to bury them. And there was like dogs eating them and stuff. And before I went there, like for a couple of days before I went, I started to hear like battle music, like flutes and drums.
Yeah.
And it was really creepy.
Yeah, that's the one. I've never been to it, but I know people that have, and they have the same story you said. You just want to get out.
Mm.
Yeah. I had a friend who, we're drifting now, that's good. I had a friend who from Germany, Olivia, and he's probably in his near 80 now, but he has the energy of like a 40-year-old, and I'm kind of in part-time business with him. And he grew up in Hamburg after the war, and he can remember playing in the ruins of the rubble and everything. From the city was destroyed, just by German British bombers. And he said to me, he didn't believe in ghosts, and he says because he says these cities like Hamburg and Germany that were just bombed to nothing should be filled with ghosts. Okay, and I was thinking to myself, well, kind of has a point. you know. And then I thought about it more, and then a while later, I was asking people about, you think, why isn't 9/11? Why isn't the World Trade Center full of ghosts? You should be hearing all kinds of ghost stories. You never hear anything, right? They took the rubble away.
Mm.
And that's what I think happened at these German cities. They just, and you do see photo, and also British cities after the war. When I was a little boy, I used to visit my aunt in Liverpool, and I can remember an entire section of the city just cleared out from the bombing. You could just see right across. So they took all those homes where the people died when the bombs hit them. They were just moved away, and they were probably used to reclaim other land. So you wouldn't have the actual physical structure that would hold the shock, the psychometric shock in the wall. And that's what happened at the 9/11, and that's what happened in Germany and in England as well, with the heavy bombing of World War II. The reason why they're not full of ghosts is because the ghosts are in the landfill, or they're whatever. You see, we're kind of like into the psychometric thing now, the connection to stone and stuff like that, or place. But the place is gone. The reality, like if you had to say where Olivia is, you had, like, I know, what was it? You're in Nuremberg, right? And that was really ornate before the war, wasn't it? It was a famous for being medieval, still medieval. Now that was very badly destroyed in the final years, months of the war. So a lot of those buildings probably would have been very haunted anyway. And it makes you wonder, say, like on the street you lived in, there could have been like something that had been built in the 1400s, right? And it's not just the shape, but it's an actual container. It's a container in space and time that has a particular resonance connected to it. This actually probably would work with house spirits as well. So when that actual structure no longer exists, the footprint of the sort of energetic footprint that it once contained is gone, and with it, the spirits are gone. Now, you know, so you were saying something about Olivia, that the higher you go up in the building, the more creepier it feels. Now that one really fascinates me. Is you know, did something happen up there? A plane was shot down or something? You
I have
know.
no idea. All I know is that in the apartment above me, uh, let's just say that it's like a freak magnet. So that's all I'm saying.
Oh, like
It does attract very
like one of those
weirdo
streets
freaky.
where all the lunatics are on it.
Yeah, I don't know what to say to that, but I recently had to go way up to the highest floor. It's not a tall building at all. It's not like 10 floors or something, but I just felt so weirded out, and I did not expect this at all. At all. I had no idea, but then it made sense. Something that I experienced last year while I went through immense psychological and emotional stress. I'm not even saying what it was, but it rattled me very, very deeply, and I felt that something was almost gleefully picking up on that. Yes, feed me, feed me. And I was like, no, motherfucker, I'm not feeding you. Get the fuck out. I'm busy. I got real shit to deal with. You're just in my way. Get the fuck out. And I started mocking whatever the fuck it was. Sorry for for the language, whatever it was. I started mocking this thing, and it went away eventually. But the real reason why it went away wasn't me going, swearing at it in four languages. It was uh me calming down, and legitimately calming down to a point where I was no longer in that horrible, completely stressed state that I have never known in my entire life before. Because I'm actually a pretty calm person, and when I'm anxious, I don't shout it out. I just deal with it internally. Yeah, but this was a very different situation, and I could literally feel the thing encroaching upon me and trying to feed. So whatever it is, maybe it comes from the tenants. We have an alcoholic who lives in the upper floor. Maybe it's an attachment from that person. It's very hard to say, but it was really, yeah, a bit liminal horror when I went up there.
At the moment, the whole world is in a kind of perpetual state of fear, comets and alien spaceships and all kinds of stuff every day. And I think it's like a real doorway for a lot of entities to come through because everyone's like full of anxiety and fear.
A question actually for Olivia. Would you notice that in the tenants as well, that there is a distinct or a marked difference in the negative, in personalities, the higher you go up in your building?
Well, I'm not entirely sure because one person is an absolute NPC, but peaceful, and I don't really see much of them. The other one, like I said, is an alcoholic, but that person is pretty quiet. And when I see them, they just ramble on, talk about nothing, but I don't get a distinctly icky feeling. I mean, a little bit, yes, but it's not, I don't think whatever that person carries is strong enough, to be honest. I don't think that. I think if that person has something, it's attached to them personally and feeding off them and their alcoholism. And then, yeah, someone else might have attachments because they're from a totally different culture. So who knows what that is about, but super normie as well and quite civilized. So I don't know. And the person who lives right above me, that is an interesting Renfielding subject, let me tell you. Total NPC and very, very interesting in terms of Renfielding, but also extremely annoying because of noise. So maybe it's something from them, but then it wouldn't make much sense to say it's creepier the higher up I go because that person lives directly above me. So I really don't know. I just find it super interesting, this whole phenomenon, and it's a bit similar to the other place where I lived before, which was an old house, so very old walls. There used to be a mirror factory before that, which I find kind of weird because mirrors are also said to be portals. So that's a bit of a funny little synchronicity, but yeah, I couldn't say. And like I said earlier, I don't really want to know. It's just best if I don't know. And yeah, go with God.
Right.
Namaste, you know.
There was a lot of people in the Islamic world are really spooked out by empty buildings, by abandoned buildings. They're really freaked out by them. They,
Jinn.
yeah, but they really take, like about 10 years ago, I used to go walking around midnight around here because it was quieter. I could have a bit of peace and think. And so I used to go walking around 11 o'clock. And I used to meet there's a Pakistani guy called Ali who lives in town. I've known him for years. And he was jogging, he always jogging by me. At some point in the thing, I'd jog him. We were jogging, they just say hello, and I say hello back. And then I got talking to him one night, and he says to me, he says, I says, where do you go after you see me? He told me where you jogged. And he says, where do you walk? And I said, well, I go walk down by the old factories, by the train tracks, the old train tracks. And he goes, oh, I'd never go down there. And I'm like, you know, why? And he's like, you think I was thinking going to say mugged or something? And he came out right and said it. And he says, no, the spirits down there, they're jinn. I've seen them. They live in the old factories. I won't go anywhere near any old buildings like that. And then I found out later on through a bit of research that they really do not like, even when they move to in the West, they do not like old buildings that are abandoned and no one living in them. Whatever that means.
They
I
don't.
worked with a Moroccan girl at some point, and she was not a particularly devout Muslim or anything, but she believed in jinn, absolutely. And she even warned me against that too. It was like, no, Tira, you must utter these verses from the Quran when you ever encounter ones. Like, I'm not going to do that. But thank you for the concern.
Yeah, this guy wasn't religious either. His father was, but this guy was born here, so he's actually not from Pakistan. But he took that stuff real seriously. I was kind of taking quite what surprised me about it. Like he wasn't super religious, but he really was freaked out by that stuff. As if somehow that means more, you know. I was like, that was more real or something, you know.
Yeah, that reminds me, speaking of jinn, I'm not sure if I saw a jinn. I hope not. But I saw something in this other apartment once. The one with the angry female spirit in the attic. It was a black shadow, and I had the impression that it was a man or a male entity, if you will. And this black shadow came out of the wall, which was the room adjacent to mine, which was my ex-roommate's room. And she is a psychotic person. She's a real psychotic person. And I saw this shadow come out of her room and enter mine. And I cussed it out in Romanian. I told it to go into a certain body part of its mother. And it sounds funnier than it was. I mean, if you say it, it's actually funny, but it wasn't then. I was very irritated and disturbed by that. And I knew it came from her. Was it passing through but it came from her room. That's all I knew. And it kind of fizzled out into nothing. I did not enjoy this experience at all, but yeah, this house was also infested with cockroaches. I don't believe that this is anything to do with with a spiritual cause. It was somebody's food store in the building next door. But anyway, what's interesting is that the cockroaches seemed to love my ex-roommate's room. I rarely found one in mine, rarely. But her room was like overrun with them. And we had one room that was used as a guest room or dining room, but it was shunned by my roommates. I had two. It was shunned by both of them because they felt uneasy there. And I felt nothing at all at first. And then I felt an enormous sense of sadness, loss, sadness, isolation, betrayal, disappointment. I don't know what happened, but I also avoided that room. So basically, this entire apartment, except for my room, which I cleared through very intense magic, let's say, was affected by something. So in retrospect, I wonder why I didn't pick up on it earlier, but it was like I was so delulu in my own world and didn't notice. But then I noticed, yeah, something's there, and I'm sure also in retrospect that it affected these two people very much.
Probably.
Why
Yeah.
don't we talk about entity attacks in dreams, which was one of our topics, because a lot of people complain about nightmares, bad dreams, and then wake up and they feel like they physically fought something off. So I protect myself every night before I go to sleep. What do you guys do?
Can I tell you about a dream I had last night that's been bothering me? Not bothering in a bad way. It's very weird. I I have no memory of ever dreaming about a snake. And in this dream, I was holding a cobra by the neck. So that's my hand. His head, well, anyway, his head was kind of coming out like that, right? And this like that way, like I was holding like that, right? And so the head was about there, right? And he was going like that with his fangs out, and there was like I could see the poison coming off the fangs. And I was talking to someone in the dream. I don't know who this person is. And I was saying, how do I get rid of this? How do I physically let go of the snake without the snake biting me? Because the only thing that was actually stopping me from biting me was because I had him in a kind of a headlock. I had him like this, so he couldn't really get around. And he was wagging his tail, and he was hit me like a whip and everything. Very realistic dream. And then the bastard actually bit me. He bit me on the hand, and he bit me several times. When you hear this one, his fangs did not penetrate into my skin, so he wasn't able to, poison me, get his venom into me. There was no, and I dropped them, and he scurried away. And I looked at my hand, and there was no, holes from the bites, so he couldn't, like, he couldn't get his teeth into me. And then I got into a car and drove to a house, and in front of it was a circular shaped pond. And the car went right into the pond. And I thought, I'm screwed now. It's going to sink to the bottom. But it was shallow water, and there was someone standing at the top of the pond looking at me, bursting out laughing. That you're having a good day. First you weren't bitten by a snake, and now you didn't drown in the pond. What hell was that about?
So the
I mean,
cobra was
it
protecting you.
sounds good. It sounds good, but it was such a surreal, series of events.
Mm. Cobras were traditionally seen as guardians and protectors, especially of the pharaoh in Egypt. And for some reason, I'm terrified of snakes, but cobras, I'm not. Not that I see them around or anything, but I'm not scared to look at them.
I'm terrified by constrictors, boas, pythons, all those fellas. But I have no problem at all with cobras or like rattlesnakes. They don't bother me.
Mm.
So it's funny. The venomous ones are almost like the honest snakes. You know what I mean? I'm gonna, but the other ones are sneaky. They sneak up and they strangle you and swallow you.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds good, like a good dream to me. It's protective. And a lot of us were having snake auguries, like last year and stuff. And maybe it symbolizes being a protected from the psychic weather.
Yeah, it didn't feel. It was just a strange one. I don't get an awful lot of nightmares, but it was just a strange one. It was a strange one in how sort of visual it was. It was like watching a movie. It was just everything was so crystal clear and nothing was vague or anything.
So what are some good ways to protect ourselves before we go to sleep? I visualize a big dome around me, a dome made of swords or stone, completely covering myself from head to toe. And I do that every night before I sleep.
I read well, it's actually quite a famous book on magic written in the 60s, I think it was. David Conway's Magic a Primer. And he suggested that there's a folk magic thing that dreams are very connected to diet and what you eat, because if you eat something that your body is having difficulty digesting, it's not able to put up the psychic firewall because it's putting all your energy into like digesting this curry or cheese.
Yeah.
And you will have nightmares. They suggested eating roasted almonds or like something, nuts of some kind with honey. So I find if I have roasted almonds, I have very pleasant, safe dreams that are never nightmares. So now that when you think like, well, how real are dreams if it's affected? No, it's your body. If your body doesn't have to worry about its digestion, it can protect you from intrusions.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense when you think about it, doesn't it?
It does, and it's something that we don't talk about enough when it comes to psychic and spiritual protection, is you need to take care of your body. Because if you're loading junk into your body and poisoning yourself, your psychic firewall is going to be depleted.
Alcohol, I can't drink spirits for that reason. I can actually feel my psychic firewall. Like I'll have 1 or 2 Jack Daniels with Coke, but I'll make sure there's lots of Coke and ice in it. I won't get like load up. I just like the flavor. To me, it's like a dessert. It's like eating a cake. But if I ever had a situation where I was drinking, wine doesn't affect me like this, beer doesn't affect me like that. That's no wonder they call it spirits, because I can actually feel my psychic firewall breaking down if I have like something like I don't drink whiskey, I don't drink vodka, I do like Jack Daniels, but I know I just after a few, I know I can feel it. I'm in danger here.
Yeah. When I still worked in culinary, I drank way more than I do now. And when this is true, that I tend to drink a lot back then. And especially in combination with weed, it was as if I could purposely let something in. And I could know things about people. It wouldn't tell me things, I would just know things about people. And it were never pleasant things, they were always bad things. And then when you drink, you also your inhibitions are gone, so you're way more likely to blurt it out, which I did often. And yeah, it after a while, I could even do it purposefully. Like I would just to test it out, I would purposely start drinking and smoking until the point that I could feel it in, and no matter how hard I tried, I could never control it ever. So I stopped trying that entirely.
In Santeria, a big part of the demonology in that, or what they call the bringing in of the spirit, it usually involves like heavy liquor and cigars,
Oh,
like yeah, strong intoxication.
huh.
And the reason why the ones who are the practitioners can do it is because they're, most people when they do that too much, they have suicidal thoughts. I think that's one of the reasons I don't drink. Like I wouldn't drink too much. I wouldn't have suicidal thought, but I'd definitely be depressed, especially with the hangover kicks in the next day. But apparently, that's the gift that they have a very high tolerance for alcohol and other substances, and that way they can actually control the spirit because of their ability to control their intoxication.
Oh, wow. Doesn't sound worth it to me,
Yeah.
to be honest.
So what do we
Yeah.
think of the current psychic weather?
Yeah, I got something to say about that. I was just thinking about it the day. I don't, you know me. I don't follow politics. I don't for politics' sake. I follow it because I like this. It's almost like the shadow of how of the secret unknowns or something, and how things work and how the zeitgeist and stuff. So I pay attention from a psychic point of view. It's very interesting to me with this kind of like civil war that's happening against the neocons in America. I've been paying a lot of attention to that, and suddenly it's part of this world we're living in right now, where things are just changing from one day to the next, and you could wake up tomorrow morning and everything is an inversion of what was happening the previous day. But I'm fascinated to see all these like neocons in America who had had tremendous power since the 80s suddenly be like looked upon as the scum of the earth even by their own kind. Now, I and I don't know whether it was Charlie Kirk's murder had something to do with that. Maybe it did, maybe it, but it's like it's 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 or maybe it's the behavior of his widow or something. I don't know, but it's quite remarkable to see the lack of fear and the open hatred of that has now been expressed towards these. Let's be honest, some very dangerous motherfuckers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially young men are turning against the neocons. There's a huge backlash, and without getting into it, a lot of them think that American government should put America first and American interests. So they're losing that entire generation. What's it going to be replaced with?
And
Something healthy.
it's
Because
also interesting. Sorry, Thomas.
oh, go ahead, Olivia.
Okay. It's also very interesting that the new mayor of New York is of a certain Middle Eastern religion, where, in 2001, we all know what happened, and the perpetrators were also of that religion. So it's almost like a coming full circle with a very dark ritual or something. I'm not sure, but it does feel like it. Like somebody got what they wanted or whatever.
It's a pattern now, isn't it? When you look at mayors and people that are in power, it's a pattern. That's all I'm saying. I mean, what does that say? Are any elections legitimate anymore? Because it certainly doesn't seem like it.
Yes, and it's also interesting because of this religion doesn't like a certain state with a certain symbol. The six-pointed star, which nation it belongs to. So this religion hates that nation. And to have a mayor in New York City, of all, not New Jersey or whatever, Ohio or something. This is New York City, an iconic place for so many reasons and
Yes, but
powerful.
there is another side to that. If you look at London and say Brooklyn, there is a gigantic population of Hasidics, and they are actually anti-Israel because they think it's broken the covenant with God to return to there until the Messiah has come. This is what they do. They spend all their time. They come up to you in the streets, and even if you're not Jewish, they say can I say a prayer for you, because they believe that they pray for everyone. The Messiah will return, then they can return back to the Middle East. So they probably voted for him. I wouldn't be surprised if they did. They all hate Netanyahu and all those the government over there, but not because of any ethical thing. It's purely religious. So they're in London as well. But you watch, New York will go the same way as London. You're going to have a massive increase in crime, colossal increase in crime, but you're also going to have enormous amounts of money from the Gulf now pouring in. Just like that's what keeps London rich and powerful. This staggering sum of money from the Gulf states, trillionaires going in there. The same will happen to New York. So it'll just grow as a financial capital really stronger, while the average life for the average person just completely turns to shit. I bet you, I can smell it. It's this third worldization of the West. They're turning the West into the third world.
They are.
You know, the whole Enlightenment is dead. The whole age of reason is dead. It's back to how they live in the Levant. The rich are super, super rich, and the rest of us are all like living violent, impoverished lives. And I'm looking at some of the economic forecasts for every country in Europe, and they're just like shocking. They're like, you know, be prepared to be impoverished until at least 2050. You know, and it's like, it's almost like they're working to some kind of plan.
Yeah.
You know, but it's a diabolical plan.
Yeah. It is a diabolical plan. It's completely evil. So I don't know what to say about it. You just wake up some days and you just can't believe what's going on. I mean, what happened? Like, why? Why does it have to be like this? But they're also gonna lose loads of money from tourism, because I don't want to go there, you know, if it's gonna be like that. Suppose they don't care, really.
Yeah, but they don't care so
But
much
it's
money.
mostly small businesses that profit from tourism, and they want them gone anyway.
Oh, yeah, good point.
I saw years ago an interview with one of the band Milli Vanilli, and they were like two German black guys. They were really actually quite talented. Actually, they weren't great singers, I think, but they were definitely appealing. They had some catchy songs, and one of the guys killed himself sadly after all the scandals, but the other guy was still alive. Said that literally a producer came into the studio one day, and he said, "How would you like to be a pop star, make lots for a little while, and then you know, like it'll be over real quick." And the two guys said, "Yeah, let's go for it." And they went for it. And that's exactly what happened. Well, that's what it's like with these secret unknowns and us in the West. And after World War II, the boomers would have a good time. Then the Generation X would have a nice time, and then it would go on, and then eventually it would come after the 2020s, and then we start taking it away from you.
Mm-hmm.
You have it for you can have like working class and poor people around the West can have a really good life if they want it for a certain amount of time, and now you're going back into the Middle Ages, and that's how it feels like to me.
Yeah, it feels like something that we were born into is dying, decaying, like we're walking on the corpse of something that once was alive and we knew, and it was our world, and our monuments no longer stand, our iconic monuments like World Trade Center, etc. They either are no longer existent, or they've fallen from grace or been toppled by the
Profaned with rainbow flag lights at certain times.
right. The mob toppled the statues, literally and proverbially. And on the one hand, it's good that certain things fall away, certain idols, let's say, but all in all, it's an erosion of our identity, and it's very, very scary. That's why personally, I believe it's more important than ever to focus on who you are as a person, become positively self-obsessed, not in a narcissistic way, but in a way that strengthens your core, strengthens your ability to connect with who and what feeds your soul, nourishes your soul, your spirit. And I 100,000,000,000% agree with Fiona and Tina about the importance of ancestral worship, the ancestral path. That is so crucial to your survival. And I don't know what's going to happen in the material sense other than more of the same and worse than now, until God knows what is going to occur. But in the meantime, we have to remain steadfast in who we are as a people, and yeah, just walk with our ancestors and with our gods, and don't be deluded by the new age nonsense.
It is actually a huge part why I started to write on Substack and do the YouTube about runes, because I absolutely hate, to my very core, the new age touch to that philosophy and magic system, and the alterations that have been made in the name of Wicca, to name one, making additions to the Futhark and stuff like that. Like, that has nothing to do with runic philosophy and runic magic systems and trying to overlap it with others. And I guess that's fine on a philosophical level or an academical level, but no, the Yggdrasil is not the Kabbalic tree of life. It has nothing to do with that. They had absolutely no concept of that part of the world or even what these people believed. And I absolutely dislike it. It, on a personal level, I cannot speak for anybody else, but that is why I wanted to talk about and write about it so much, because I don't want that to be lost. I don't want the purity of it to be lost. And it hurts me actually to see it defiled almost by new agery, profaned. It's cheapened and basically rendered useless.
Yeah, like astrology. Modern astrology is exactly the same. Yeah, but just to touch on something that Olivia said, about the monuments from our past, falling, like, the Trade Center and stuff like that. The thing is that everything ends. Everything at some point must die and must end. And that's a good thing, because what we're living through now, it's also going to end at some point. Nothing lasts forever. And that is a comfort.
Oh yeah, big time. What Tina was saying there about the Kabbalah and the Kabbalah and the Tree of Life. That's the stuff that they use today is the same as the astrology. It's not the real thing. The original Kabbalah, if you go into it, doesn't even have anything to do with the Hebrewism or the Jews. It was actually came out of Mesopotamia, so it came out of Persia. So it has. Look, I treat these things in a kind of a chaos magic way. They all are an operating system to work with the same energies. What you're comfortable with. Now, I don't work with the Kabbalah or anything, but I find it like terribly interesting, and you can draw comparisons between see, this makes me think it ultimately comes from a pagan source. You can tell it's almost, it has to, because it's just the whole system of it is so antithetical to the Abrahamic mind. It has to have come from a pagan source like the runes or similar.
That's very possible. Yeah, that's possible. Very.
It is the 9 worlds and the 9 Sephiroth. There's so many similarities in how you can approach them, the journeys between worlds, and so I just use things as a software as basically a kind of a software to work with. If I am working with it, like my main thing is I prefer folk magic. I like old-fashioned folk magic, and I think there's a scope. And I've made some videos about it to bring that into the future. I've done even things like charging sigils in a microwave because of the sheer power of it. Can it be done? Yes.
Which works, by the way. I tried that.
It fucking did. And it did. And that's an apatropathic magic. did someone who's bothering me. I did the course of the Toad and the Well on them. So I'm not going to say, of course, no one you guys know, but in real life, and we'll see if that works. How that works out. But I have a thing there somewhere. But yeah, I mean, just to keep them on my face for a while. I've done the Toad and the Well working, and not to harm them indefinitely or anything. Just to, like, I need you out of the fucking way right now. You know, get out of my life. And so that's that's what I like. I'm comfortable with folk magic. That's what I like right now the most. And a patriopathic magic.
Well, Fiona, about it being software. Well, Fiona, you said this before, that it's the magic that's going to work best for you is the one from your ancestors. That is true because it's already in your DNA. Of course, you're going to have a much easier time with that. Not all software works on all hardware. There are different programs for Linux, and then there are different programs for Windows. If you make a download of a program, yeah, you have to download different software, not one thing that will work on every system.
But they all use binary code. I'm looking for the binary. That's what I am, like I'm trying to get back. That's why I see it. Just, I know, I completely understand where you're going. Like, you can compare someone in the Middle East to a Linux, one of us to a Windows. You can't run the program on the same way, but you can actually go back to the source code. I'm just using metaphors in that sense. But you're right. The one that your ancestors carried in is the one that will always work the best. That's just the fact. That's, just talk the Roma gypsies. I mean, that's all they do. And so yeah, the thing is, I was going to say something else then about that, but yeah, about the psychic defense going forward and this sort of like the inversion of society. I think it's good to be positive, not in the new age airy wary fair. I'm talking about, like, get up in the morning and be thankful that you woke up having lived safely through the night.
Yeah.
I think a kind of gratitude is a very underappreciated form of magic. It's all you have to do is look at all the super rich people or how miserable they are because they've no gratitude left. Where guys like us are lucky that we don't have any money, so we can actually really indulge in this sort of like gratuitous magic, So that's be positive. Don't be afraid of being positive, but don't be like, like ridiculously infantile. So, but it does work. It's good for your. What happens is it's true. If you're down all the time, nothing will work for you. You can't. If you're an artist, you can't draw a picture properly. And I'm talking about all the time. If you look at people who are really good at art who suffer from depression, it's because they're bipolar. They fly back up again, and it's that release that actually makes them good at writing or poetry. But if you're down and depressed all the time and despondent all the time, you literally start psychically dying. That's what I see anyway.
Yes, you have to adjust the lens through which you see the world, because the world isn't going to change or get better, but you can, if you adjust your lens to gratitude, for example, you see more things to be grateful for, maybe things that you wouldn't have noticed before. And this kind of creates a positive feedback loop, which attracts even more opportunities for gratitude. And you become more confident and more optimistic, not, like you said, not in a childish way, not like a Pollyanna, but you get more, you become more resilient also because you find more things to be thankful for and you build upon that. And the other way around, if all you see is despondency and reasons to hate everybody and everything, and it's all going to shit, and music is shit, and culture doesn't exist anymore, and everybody hates us because of our skin color and because of something we supposedly are guilty of, and yada yada, and everyone's evil, and that may be true, but you will only wreck your own psyche doing that, and you will not achieve anything. You can bet on that. So yeah, just to echo what Thomas just said, make your bed every morning, write down 3 things or whatever you're grateful for, or anything that comes to mind, anything, any little ritual that you can do every day to remind yourself that there are still things to be grateful for, and this will compound over time. Positivity compounds just like negativity compounds. And they want us despondent, they want us unhappy, they want us desperate. And personally, I'm too much of a petty little something to allow that to happen. I don't want to do them the favor of giving up. I'm at a point where I'm like, no, I'm not doing you the favor of giving up. No, I
No.
can make it work. Somehow I'll find a way. Maybe not today, but I will find a way, and I'm on it.
Well, look where we are compared to where we could be. Like, I'm really grateful to be with you three guys here tonight, because on the weekend I was staying, doing an event, and I was staying in a hotel. And it's the only time I watch mainstream TV is when I'm in a hotel. I just switch it on. And it's fucking bonkers out there. Just everyone's insane. Everyone's a lunatic. Like that. It's like, and there seems to be a huge element of burlesquing and humiliation, even of celebrities, on the mainstream media. It's like, and I'm so grateful that like we can do a show like this and we can have access to things like a camera and a phone and a computer and Zoom and YouTube, that we can actually do that. Like, and that's really that's fucking important. To like you think about like where we didn't exist, and we wouldn't know each other, but we were back in that horrible world trying to find something to keep us, to keep us vital. I mean, I could always do it. I mean, I know you guys probably could as well. It was a hell of a lot harder. It was a hell of a lot harder before we were able to do this kind of thing.
Yeah. And even, back in the old days, you couldn't practice magic or astrology, without risking your life. I have central heating. I've got coffee. I don't have bears trying to eat me every time I go out the door. There's a lot that's really great about the modern life.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so like I know it's not superficial. It just like Olivia said, it's not narcissistic either. It's not superficial. It's to say, oh, I have, like I'll give you an example. This place here would be like a swamp if I didn't have the dehumidifier. And every time I empty out that dehumidifier tank, I feel like a ritual, like I'm taking it's almost like a magical ritual to me, that this water that would be otherwise getting into the walls, getting into my lungs, destroying the furniture, that kind of thing, is now contained and then poured into the sink. It's like, and it's like the same thing when I'm taking clothes out the lawn, out the clothes dryer. It's almost like I washed away last week's problems. So this is like, I make a great housewife, wouldn't I? This is domestic magic is a real thing. It's a real thing, but like little small things like that, it does turn everything into a ritual, and a ritual, and focus it towards gratitude, and you'd be amazed how much better your life gets.
Yeah.
And there's
Well,
another.
I don't know about you guys, but I have been under the impression for a very long time, going back years, if not decades, that I chose to be alive during this time. And that has always been a source of great comfort to me, because not only is this life not eternal, I will depart it at some point, but it somehow really strengthens me, that idea that I chose to be here. And I really feel that it's true, that it was voluntary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the amazing, I mean, mind-blowing opportunity to remember not one, but 2 past lives, one in pagan times and one in fairly recent times. And I'm not getting into it. I won't bore anybody with my story, but all I'm saying is I find it an immense privilege to be able to remember it, despite being not exactly wonderful in one case, quite horrific actually. But the other one is interesting because I know for a fact that I guess since the beginning of Christianity, or let's say the conversion to Christianity in Europe, which in Eastern Europe took a long time, where my family is from. But I think from this moment on, all my ancestors were Christian, even if it was just formal, even if they didn't truly believe it, but they were Christian. They were baptized and all that jazz. So for me to be the first pagan in my family, and I don't know of any other pagan in my family. I know atheists, but not a pagan. I'm the first one. So I think that is amazing. And for my past lives to have sort of bled through, and for me to be able to look back on them and see something in them and understand things. And I think that is absolutely that has to be on purpose. It can't be just an accident that I stumbled into this realm. And I do feel quite lost, to be honest, but that's another thing. But on the other hand, I don't, because I also feel like, no, I'm here on purpose. Something is just the way it's supposed to be, despite it being utter shit sometimes.
You know, when we first met, you had a song that you'd written with your band called I Know My House is Haunted, but I Don't Believe in Ghosts.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's
It's a really
funny.
good song, but I mean, that's like, that could be what we're talking about tonight. It was almost like your ritual, you invocated this discussion in years in advance in a song. I believe in those things. There's another thing. Stay away from people that make you feel uncomfortable. They don't even have to be toxic. They could be. I mean, I know people that are nice people who mean me no harm. I just can't be around them.
It's the the knowing that the feeling will come.
Well,
And
I do stupid things myself. I say stupid things. I almost like lose my. I go off kilter, and later on I'm going like, that wasn't a pleasant experience, mainly because I was kind of an asshole, you know. But it was like those kinds of people I can't be around anymore. I just can't be. Even if they're nice people, if they're making me feel out of sorts, I'm gone.
Yeah, it's your intuition.
Yeah.
Anytime that someone made me uncomfortable, it was always a warning, and they make me feel like crap when I'm in their presence. Don't be around that person. It's my body's way of letting me know that something's up. I think we're about out of time now. So, does anyone else have anything that they want to talk about?
If anybody's watching this, I'm going to be doing a talk in Ledbury, England in the second week, end of December. I'll get the details posted when I get them in.
Yep, go and see him. It's a great experience. He's even better in the flesh.
And funnier too.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Good night, everyone at home.
Good night.